Yo, yo, yo. This is Ricky Rod, and welcome to this week's episode of Welcome to the Bomb House. This week's episode features a very special guest. It is my wife, Tyson Rodriguez. So, I thought long and hard before asking her to be on an episode. She has an amazing story. And me and her, we discussed about what we wanted to talk about. This episode could have gone double the length, and I want to have her back to continue more in the discussion. We were limited on time. But if you want to hear a story about adversity, dealing with adversity, surviving adversity, and not just physically, but just spiritually, this is your episode. You're going to meet my better half. And I'm not saying that as a cliche. I'm not saying that just to say it. I honestly feel she really is the better side of me. And when people meet her, it doesn't take long for people to realize that. And you will too. But hang on tight. This is a really good episode. Have a great summer. We love y'all. Peace. Jimmy.
What's up, Ricky?
We are back.
We are back, dude.
After a break, a couple of weeks.
Yep.
You were busy taking over the world with your band.
I don't.
World domination. Rooted.
Taking over the world. Yeah, that's a.
Yeah. You guys performed downtown.
Yep, we did.
And
yeah, for the TGIF showdown.
Nice. The
Yep.
showdown. How many groups were in this showdown?
5, and this was the first annual competition.
The first time.
The grand prize was $500 and an opening slot.
I did not realize there was $500 involved.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you guys won.
Yeah, and that means you won.
That means the studio
That is true.
won.
That is true.
Man, that's awesome. So what other bands competed so we can give them a shout out? Because
we
I think I
had-
knew some of them.
I cannot remember every single one.
I know Robbie was in
Robbie,
one of those.
is it Bobby Snakes and
Bobby
the Elastic
Snakes.
Waist Band?
Bobby, I don't know if you'll ever listen to this, but I love you, man.
Man,
Dude, he's great.
they
right?
killed it.
He's old school.
They
Like
killed
his great rock band.
very, very. There's a lot of like psychedelic
Queens
rock stuff
of the Stone Age kind of guy. He's a big
Absolutely.
fan of that band.
Absolutely.
And that's in Morganton. He's great.
And his vibrato is crazy.
Yeah,
man.
he's good.
He's
I
so
mastered
good.
a project for him, and he was really good.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it, and he did it all at his house with like electronic drums, and
Yeah.
I was like, man,
And so this was their second gig. That's what he told me.
I'm
this
not
was
surprised.
their second gig, and
That's
they
awesome.
knocked it out of the park, man. They
that's
killed
cool.
it. Very, very.
And
tight
who else
band.
was there?
There's a local group, Flyboy Groove.
Okay, I don't think I've ever heard of Flyboy.
They play a lot of restaurants, breweries,
Okay.
wineries, that kind of thing.
Maybe I have. I don't
And
know.
they do, man. They're a 3-piece. And
They're killer?
They're a powerhouse, man.
Man, we need to go see these
Yeah,
bands.
yeah. And then one other group that I can remember was American Holler. That's what they
Okay.
were called.
Oh, I think we met them at lunch one day. I
Yeah.
think at Mountain Burrito. I think we met
their
them.
lead singer, UC. She's
Okay.
from Morganton, or she lives in Morganton. And I might be completely wrong about this, but she told me her full name is actually, or her whole first name is Ladies.
Wow.
Yeah. So the way she told me this was like, well, like in New York, when you see a bunch of ladies, like, use ladies.
Use
You
ladies.
know, like,
Wow.
so she goes by UC.
So you guys, how many songs did you have to do?
I think the criteria was like 15 minutes.
And there were like
Or-
judges there, I
or
guess.
4
I'm
songs.
guessing there were judges. And,
Yeah, there was a panel of judges, and then there was a People's Choice Award at the classiest place, the beer tent. So you go to the beer tent to
The
vote.
beer tent.
So Flyboy Groove got the People's Choice Award.
Okay.
And they were super entertaining, man.
That's great.
Like they did Blackstreet.
Oh,
And,
wow.
and they killed it. They
That's
killed
killer.
and then we were really pleasantly surprised to win.
Good, man.
So.
I was glad to hear that. So how's Ruddy Beard? You seem really busy. Seems like you have a lot of stuff. Yeah.
I'm slammed. I've been juried in for a very large event in Charlotte called the Southern Christmas Show. It's been going on for a long, long, long time.
So you're going to have a table there with your wife, right?
No,
it's
just
just
me.
Gonna be ready
Just me, because we're having a baby in October.
Oh,
so in November I'm going to be the awesome dad and leave.
Everything's going to double
over 14
well,
days.
this has been. I know we got off of our schedule a little bit with the podcast, but I sort of knew this was going to happen because we had a lot of stuff going on this summer, and this past month I've spent the whole month at the Elevation Asheville campus. Yeah, they moved me this month. We had a lot of musicians on vacation or out on tour. And for whatever, just the way it worked out, I ended up spending, I thought it was going to be 2 weeks up in the Asheville campus, which is one of their, I think the newest one in North Carolina. I think. I'm not sure. But, and then I ended up spending the rest of the month there, which was great because I love getting to meet the volunteers and the band, the musicians, the worship leader. It was good. We had a good time.
So where is that campus located?
It is at, hold on, let me pull it up on my phone. I think it's Asheville High School. Yeah, it's just called Asheville High School. Okay. It's right off of like Biltmore Avenue.
Yeah.
And it is cool, man. It's, I've been at Gaston now for over 4 years. Okay, so when I joined Gaston, they had just been there a year. And, it was the first sort of non-permanent campus, kind of thing. They were trying it out, and Gaston, has been very wildly successful over there. And I've been there over 4 years, so it was cool to go to a campus that, hey, they're starting out, and especially being on the worship team. I really do enjoy getting to meet new people, and it's fun. It's fun to hang, and the volunteers. I already knew some of the volunteers up there, just through life, and it was good. It's good to see them, what they're doing. Elise, the worship leader up there, she's great. The band's great. Cool. They're good. They're good dudes, and it's fun. I think I'm going to try to rotate up there as much as I can. But it was fun. It was fun to change up. Tyson went up with me. My wife went up with me, not this weekend, but the weekend before last. We got an Airbnb. It's gotten really expensive to stay up there.
Yeah, it has.
Like really expensive.
Yeah.
But we made a weekend out of it, man. And
it's a top tourist location in the States.
Well, let me tell you, they've priced it that way. Yeah. Downtown's gotten really expensive. It's become what Charleston used to be. Charleston, back in the day, 20 years ago, you could go down for $80 a night and stay right downtown. Forget it. It's like $300 now. Same spots we used to stay at. So I keep on saying we, Jimmy, because we do have a guest. And she's been so quiet.
That's right.
We have my wife, Tyson Rodriguez. Say hey, baby.
Rodriguez.
Say hey.
Hello.
Yeah. Oh man, this is gonna be a fun podcast. Yeah. So, fun story about my wife. I brought her up with me to the Asheville campus last week, right? And they started Love Week. And when Elevation does Love Week, I don't know how many thousands of hours, but it was thousands of volunteer hours were done last week. Every campus plugs into the community.
Yeah.
It is a whole week. They work their booties off.
Yeah.
I think my team, one of the teams I was with, was the day before was shoveling mulch.
Wow.
Like all day in the heat. It's pretty awesome. And what they give back to the community. So the weekend we were up there is when they started Love Week, and she got in there and just started helping. We helped, we bagged. What did we bag?
We bagged, they called them hygiene kits.
Yeah, hygiene kits.
That were going to the Asheville area Christian United Ministries.
Yeah, we bagged. Okay. So we, but it was, what? This is what always happens when people meet my wife. They figure out that she really is my better half. Yeah. Now the podcast world's about to find out that forget Ricky, it's really his wife.
Next week on Welcome to the Bomb House,
Tyson takes over.
Tyson and Jim.
But I thought, she would be a great guest because this would give our audience a sort of a window into our life, my life. And I'm not able to do what I do without my spouse. That's the way it works. That includes all the hours I spend in here working, and then just traveling as a musician. For me, it's very important that she's, she's by my side as much as possible. Every time we go to South Carolina a lot over the years, and we try to make weekends out of that stuff. So, but she also has some pretty cool stories, and we've had some challenges over the years, and it hasn't been like marriage challenges. We've been married, how many? We're going to be 20, is it 21, 22 this year? I honestly can't remember.
It's in the 20s. And
we got married in 96.
Neither one of them can verify this.
We got married in 96. So
it'll be 22 years this August.
22 years. We'll be married to 22 years in August. We'll be at the beach. We'll be on vacation that week. But in that 22 years, we spent most of that time here in Morganton, right? We decided to keep our family here. And when was Gabe born? Gabe is 14? That's her baby. That's the youngest one. So how many months after Gabe were you diagnosed with cancer?
He was 8 months old.
And how old were you? 20, were you 27, 28?
I was 29.
29. 29. So here we go. I'll just give you a snapshot into our life at that time. I had my own business, I think at that time. No. I was working legit. That was my last legit job.
I was working legit.
That was my last legit job.
Since then, we've been under the table doing some
That was my last, what I would call a legit job.
Right.
Where I actually had somebody to report to. And, we had already had Tori, our oldest, and then, you got pregnant with Gabe, and then you were really sick. I remember, it was crazy.
Yes.
A lot of throwing up.
Yes, I was sick during my pregnancy, but didn't realize the cause.
And the doctors just said, they would, take your blood test, and it was your white blood cell count, right? It was really low.
I was anemic.
You were anemic.
My hemoglobin was super low, bottomed out low, and I was tired.
I felt like you were eating like 3 things, and that was it.
But I just thought. During the pregnancy, I just thought I'm tired because I have a toddler and I'm pregnant. And then the doctor took my hemoglobin and it was just rock bottom. And they diagnosed me with pregnancy-related anemia.
Pregnancy-related anemia. So she was on iron pills, and it wasn't working. Yeah. Like whatever, once she had Gabe, who turned out to be a very good baby, who did not want to sleep consecutive 4 hours, but that didn't matter. Other than that, he was a really good kid. I mean, he really was. He was a very good baby.
He was snuggly, yes.
But you never recovered. You never bounced back. Like I remember, we kept on trying to figure out what foods were bothering you. You were off milk, I think. I mean, it was crazy. You were basically eating like broth. It was crazy. It was a rough go. And then when did you go? Was it? Did you go to the primary care first?
Well, yes. I went to the primary care doctor several times with.
Who was that? Was it?
Well, it was. I don't want to say it on air
because it wasn't great.
In Morganton, North Carolina, because he's still in Morganton, North Carolina. But it was the doctor I was seeing, and he told me that the iron had upset my stomach, my system, and.
So he sort of blew it off, right?
Yeah, he did. And then I go to the same practice that I went to then, but I called and I said, listen, he was a PA. And I said, I want to see a real doctor.
A real one.
A real one.
Sorry, PAs.
And I know nothing against PAs in general. But
it was just this particular guy was not.
And so they made me an appointment with the doctor I still see today. And she took one look at my record.
Is it Robinson? Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's great. She's
great. Love her.
We'll say
There's my little plug.
Yeah, we'll say that, Nick.
And she took one look and said, we're sending you to a GI specialist.
Instantly. That was Bukhari, right?
Yes.
Dr. Bukhari.
In
Morganton.
Yes.
Who I credit, sort of, he saved your life.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
And I love him. And if you have GI issues, go to Dr. Bukhari.
Yeah. So we went. So I remember this. We went to Bukhari, and he was very sweet. He was a very sweet guy.
Yeah.
And I remember him looking at your reports and going, "Okay, something doesn't add up. Something's going on." He was really simple about it, but didn't you have to? He had you swallow the camera pill.
Oh my gosh!
Back in those days,
I did test after test after test, and I was really naive because I had never really had any medical problems before that.
The word cancer was never talked about until surgery was booked.
Like, I didn't realize how quickly I was having test after test.
Yeah.
Like, I would have a test, it would come back inconclusive, And then within like 2 or 3 days, I would have another test. If they don't think something's really bad wrong with you, it's like, oh, next month we will do another test.
But this was test.
But I was having
after test. Yeah, I remember.
They were turning around. So I would have an endoscopy. Oh, we don't see anything. We're going to schedule you for colonoscopy in like 3 days. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it was quick.
Oh, that came back inconclusive. We're going to schedule you. And then I had the capsule camera, which was pretty new at the time.
That was the pill, right? Like the thing you had to swallow. And she had to wear a vest. It was crazy. It was
and
a
this
huge
was
vest.
really crazy because
she had to wear it to work.
This is what they told me. And I'm a teacher. And I teach middle school, and I taught middle school at the time. And they said, we're going to put like some of those little sticker probes on your abdomen. It'll be under your clothes. You'll come in early in the morning. You'll swallow the capsule camera. Yeah, you can go to work. Sure, no big deal. So I went to work that day. What they didn't tell me is that it's all battery powered. And I had to wear like this vest. Like I looked like Bob the Builder.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
And
she was out of middle school. She was out of middle school.
Middle school like that all day. Yeah. And my students were like, oh, what is that?
And
mind your own business.
And you had zero energy. I remember you would get home. I was Mr. Mom in it.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, I was helping with the kids. I remember you would get home and just pass out. It was she had zero energy. I mean, we really had to consider that even to go out to eat. I think it was really odd. It was really odd. So
by that time, but after I had Gabe, I would have stomach issues, and then I'd be fine for a few days, and then I'd have stomach issues, and I'd be fine for a few days. But by this time, it got progressively worse.
It was bad. You were pale.
By the time that I was having these tests, if I ate, I was vomiting. It was bad.
Yeah, she was down to like broth and so
I looked really good though. I was skinny.
Why did they decide on the surgery
for the early time in my life?
It was after the camera pill thing though, when they decided, okay, we're gonna have to do surgery, and that's the first time we heard the C word, the cancer word.
And here's another really naive thing I did. They called me. They were like, this capsule camera takes thousands of pictures. It might be like 3 weeks before your doctor gets back in touch with you. Mm-hmm. Well, his office called me 3 days later at work and was like,
you had to come in.
Could you come this afternoon? We've got the results from your test. And I was like, yeah, sure, no biggie. I still didn't know that was odd, that a doctor's office calls you early.
So basically what happened was the camera got stuck, the pill got stuck, but they knew there was an infection.
Well, they knew there was a tumor, and he said it could be cancer.
He kept on using the word tumor, but he also said infection.
He said it could be cancer, it could be an infection, and he said you're very young, so maybe it's not cancer.
That's the first time we were like, what? So we started researching it.
That's when it becomes a possibility. It's like,
we were like, not be. We were like, what?
Yeah.
And
I didn't think it was.
And it was the type of cancer that was common in Asian old men. We're talking like old Asian dudes.
Well, it was small intestinal cancer. So not colon cancer. Colon cancer is your large intestine. This was my small intestine. It was higher.
And it was Dr. Jacks who did
Dr.
the surgery.
Jacks
so they still didn't know. They still didn't know. I remember this like yesterday.
And he was wonderful as well.
They weren't sure how long the surgery was going to take. I remember I heard anywhere from it could be longer than a couple of hours. Like we didn't know.
Yeah.
And about an hour and 45 minutes in, somebody came and got me. They were like, hey, they did a frozen sample, whatever they call it, frozen section, and it was positive for cancer.
Okay.
And they were like, we're going to leave her open. That's the words they said. Leave her open, and he's going to check everything. That's what he ended up doing. He ended up taking he took all the lymph nodes out.
I want to say
it was like over 10.
I want to say 10 or 12 lymph nodes out. Now at the
time, cut out a foot of the small intestine.
Yeah, now that sounds like a lot, and like the next day when I was in the hospital and awake, and the surgeon comes in and he tells me all of this stuff. He's like, we took a foot of your intestine, and I'm like, oh my goodness, am I going to have like a colostomy bag?
He was like,
or whatever?
Yeah, no, we just...
Yeah, he said...
They just piece it together.
Yeah, he's like, oh no, that's nothing. A foot's nothing. And then he was like, he keeps talking. He said, now we took out like 12 or 13.
Yeah, it was a lot of lymph nodes.
Of your lymph nodes. And I said, oh my God, am I going to have to be on immune suppressant drugs or whatever? He's like, oh no, you've got hundreds. Like literally, I think they can take out half your body and
you still function
and you're fine.
just fine.
So yeah, I'm fine.
The fact that it was cancer blew our mind though. By then I was like, I think I was sleeping on the floor of that hospital bed. We were there for about almost a week.
We were there for a week.
Yeah, we were there for a week. And it was a crazy, very crazy situation to watch that happen. And then they talked about treatments, and then we were still in Morganton the first time. Was it the
you
first
mean
time?
treatment wise? Yes.
And did you do the chemo there?
I just
in Morganton.
Yes. Well,
the first time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The first time I remember, I think we did it at Valdez, right? So
Ricky's saying the first time because.
Well, wait, no, we'll get to there. We'll get to there. So because there's
Tyson.
When I say the first time, that means the story's going to forward on.
Yeah.
So,
That's called foreshadowing.
So, well, she's an educator.
She is.
But so you go through the treatment. The kids are babies at the time, literally babies. And then we get you through that time. And, we had incredible community support. I do remember that. We had a lot of family support. If it wasn't for our family, there was no way we could have made it through that time. And then, when she goes through chemo, I forgot how long it lasted, but basically it just poisoned your body.
Yeah.
Chemo
lasts about 6 months.
And then typically what they do CT scans after that, so to keep an eye on symptoms. And I think in Morganton, they wanted to do what? They wanted to do one a year? Was that what?
No, the original...
They originally told us 4 a year.
Well, the original oncologist said every 3 months for a year or 2 years and then reducing, it on out. But then she moved away. So then I was seeing...
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember
so
that.
So then I was seeing her partners, or who used to be her partners, that stayed in town.
And this was in Morganton.
Yes. And so I went in 3 months...
And we will not say their names, because we don't like them. Okay, go ahead. They're... She's making fun of me, audience. She's making the hand symbol of me running my mouth. This is where
the marriage dynamic
So just to
really
let you know, I'm interrupting her and she's mad at me, but she won't say that. Okay, go ahead.
So I was supposed to get a CAT scan every 3 months, and then once my oncologist left, I had blood work, and they were like, "Oh, your blood work's fine. We won't do a CAT scan." So the first time I'm like, "Okay." I go back in 3 months. "Oh, your blood work's good. We won't do a CAT scan." I go back in 3 months. "Your blood work's good. We won't do a CAT scan." When I went at a year and they said, "Your blood work's good. We won't do a CAT scan."
We went to Winston.
Yeah, from the parking lot.
Yeah.
I called Winston-Salem.
Yeah.
And said,
and we went to Winston. And we met Dr. Akilu.
Yes, who I love.
Dude, that guy... Number 2 saved her life. Yeah. That guy. So we went to Winston.
We went to Winston.
Had a CT scan. I remember he looked at your records and went, "What?"
Yeah, he was like, "I can't believe they let you go this long without a CAT scan."
So he was like, I think he wanted the CAT scan like that day, right?
It was really
It was quick. Like and normally in the hospital world that normally doesn't happen that fast. But he was just like, get the CT.
But it was still clear. It was still clear at the end. But then either 3 months later or 6 months later, I can't remember when.
It was 3 months. I felt like it was really quick. It came back with you had a tumor in your lung.
Yes, it was the same cancer.
It just metastasized.
Yes.
Your right lung? I can't remember where your scar is.
Yes, right lung.
It's your right lung. And it was a big one. Mm-hmm. It was, I remember they had the 3D imaging was pretty new back then, but I saw like the real life, like they showed the real life dimension of it, and it was the size of like a big gumball. It was crazy. Yeah. It was crazy, and it metastasized in her lung. I remember because I was in Charlotte, I think. It was around my birthday when you called me. I think you called me on my birthday and said that...
Was it really?
Yeah. It was the week of my birthday. The week of my birthday has been doo-doo butts for many years now.
No, I had surgery the week of your birthday.
It's been... That week, that's a long story, but...
Yeah.
bad things happen the week of my birthday for some reason over the years, and now I've equated oh, it's awful. So, yeah, that was number 2. Number 2, she had a tumor, and the kids, Gabe was toddler still.
He was 3. It was 3 years apart. The two.
And Tori was just starting cancers. School.
So right, so Gabe. So my kids, the first time they were infant and
a toddler.
3,
yeah,
and then the second time they were 3 and 6.
Yeah, this was a kick in the pants.
Yeah,
in the gods, I was mad. Yeah. I remember being angry. Like that was one of the. I was angry, and I wasn't angry at God. I wasn't angry at anything. I was just literally angry at the situation.
Right.
And I talk about things that in my life over the years that have shaped things like perspective changers, right? We've all had them over the years. This was it.
Yeah.
This really put things in perspective for me. I know, 20-year-old, early 30s, sort of, we had these grand plans, and I realized I'm like,
that's when you just come to grips with who you are as a person. Anyway.
And for me to say this was very hard. We had to take things day by day. Tyson will tell you, I am not a day by day guy. I'm years by years guy. I'm thinking way down the road. I'm thinking how we can avoid issues, and I'm thinking what we need to save for, and thinking about a lot of things, And that was a kick in the pants, man. That was rough, and it started a whole cycle again. She had a surgery. They just removed that part of your lung, if I remember. It was actually like they used a laser. It was actually pretty cool when they explained it to me, what they did. It wasn't, like you were, I felt like you were in and out. Yeah, that's sort of what they did.
Okay, that surgery was a whole lot easier.
Yeah, it was, except for the lung thing. Yeah, because, when they cut up your intestines, it's really funny. You can't leave the hospital till you fart.
That's why I was there for a week.
Like, literally, I would sit there and put my ear to her belly. I'm like, all right, babe, let it out. I'd be like, serious.
This is going to be one of the quote tiles we put on Instagram.
But
they wouldn't. No, the first time in the hospital,
they wouldn't let her leave until she
I couldn't eat.
Passed gas.
I couldn't eat. Like, I couldn't have nothing in my
I
stomach. I couldn't
tube.
drink water. I couldn't have anything. I could swallow spit, but there was this tube down my throat sucking the spit out.
It was, she had a tube. It was awful.
Until my intestines worked, because nothing can go through your system until your intestines work. So when she tooted,
we were like, boom, we out. And sure enough, we were out.
Boom, we out.
So, but the lung thing was a little bit different.
But the lung, it was, in fact, we did that one in Winston, and they had told me you'll stay overnight, maybe 2 nights, just depending.
Next morning.
And then the next morning they were like, okay, you're ready to go home. And I told them, no, I am staying.
I remember that.
I said, no, I'm staying. I'm still on morphine.
She was high.
And I'm usually pretty like, okay, I'll do whatever the doctor tells me. Yeah. But I stood up for myself for once, and I was like, no, I'm still on morphine. This is a 2-hour drive.
Hey, if I remember that hospital
was 3 years in, right? So
that hospital had a Domino's pizza, had a Moe's, had a Cranky's coffee at the time.
They had a good
this
coffee
hospital shop. Had all that.
It was dope.
Well, it's Baptist. I mean,
it was awesome, Jimmy.
Fast tracking from the lobby
and
up.
We got and we got to know the city of Winston very well for 5 years after that or more, because she had to have so many
rocks,
CTs.
Man.
Yeah, we got to know. We really did become.
Because I would go every 3 months, and then every 6 months,
I can't remember her name, but she was awesome.
For a while.
Yeah.
And now I don't go anymore.
He's in Chicago,
Amen.
right? Dr. Akilu's in Chicago.
Yes.
I think he went to the Cancer Center of America, I think. But, that was, 8 years, I guess. It feels like 8 or 10 years. Like.
No,
that we went through that.
I've been cancer-free the second time for 10 years.
Man, that's incredible.
Yeah, it is.
And it's really the 5-year mark, of doing CTs. And, even recently in the community, we had a wife of an educator pass away recently, and it was quick. It was a year, by the time she was diagnosed and she had passed, and that, and our hearts go out to that family. What's his name? What's the teacher's name?
Scott Huffman.
Yeah, Scott Huffman. We love you, dude. And that's the perspective change, right?
Yeah,
I get asked sometimes like, hey, what happened? What's happened over the years that sort of, that kick you around, and that was one of those things.
It's got to be.
And I could say for our marriage, we got stronger, right? Mm-hmm. We got stronger, and I think we got married when we were 21. We sort of grew up together. We matured together, and we, it was an interesting. It's still an interesting thing, to think about it. But I don't take her for granted, but I don't ever take what we have as a family, And again, I talk about perspective and the things that really matter, right? And I think life sometimes and social media likes to, tell you, hey, this is what your view needs to be, and your perspective. No, as husbands, musicians, it's our families, right? Our faith in our families. And it's really the reason we've stayed here over the years. Because the question I get the most, asked about my studio is like, why here? Why in Morganton? Yeah. I'm like, well, that's a long story, but it gives me a good opportunity to explain that story. Yeah. I'm like, hey, this is what happened. Because we had looked at jobs. We had looked at a couple other jobs. We had looked at jobs in Tennessee early on in our marriage. We were looking at a couple of places, and we ended up staying here. Which leads us to the next topic of conversation. Because you are from Burke County, correct, babe?
Yes, I am. Born and raised.
Born and raised. And
Burke County.
What do we call your dad? I love this. What do we call your dad casually? What's his name?
He's Rip.
Rip. And what about his brother?
Hatchet.
No kidding.
Rip and Hatchet, people.
Rip and Hatchet.
She's from Burke County.
Yep.
Man. Okay, tell me why.
Let's think about that.
I don't know.
No? There's no real...
I will say, over the years, we've heard a lot of funny stories because they grew up in the Oak Hill area, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So we've heard some funny stories over the years about Rip and Hatchet. Yeah. And so she.
When you say that together, Rip and Hatchet, that sounds like you're about to go break a can.
Well, you should meet her aunt on that side of the family.
I don't think they were calm children.
No. There are stories of motorcycles running through the hallway of high schools.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Like
yeah, man.
Every time I see Hatchet, I see her uncle. He goes to Mountain Burrito every once in a while. I always try to make sure to get his Mountain Burrito. He's a good dude, man. That's a good family. But her family's from Burke County, and I'm not talking like rural Burke County. I'm talking Rose Holler, not holler. Rose Holler is what it's called, right?
Yeah.
And it's that side of the family, and it's about a mile, 45 minutes, an hour up in Linville, right?
Right.
You took me up there one time. I refused to go after that time.
So we're talking about Burke.
Yeah.
Jonas Ridge, bro. We're talking about people that get 25-pound bags of flour and sugar once a month.
Like the older generation,
Boy, oh boy.
they talk about going into Morganton as going into the city.
The big city.
I can relate with that. My wife's family's from Burnsville.
I know people in Charlotte that think Morganton is like a bunch of hicks, but they really don't know what they're talking about until you meet.
This is the Emerald City.
This is Deliverance. This is the movie Deliverance up there. I went there one time, and that was it.
This is why every time I pull a banjo into the studio, Ricky kind of looks over his shoulder every few seconds.
I start shaking. No, but in reality, though, I love that side of the family. We have a great relationship with them. But you're a teacher. You've been teaching in Burke County, over 20 years, right?
Yes, it was 20 years in January. Yes.
And
you started in middle school, right? Was it middle school teaching?
Oh, yes. I taught middle school. And then when our babies were little, I went to elementary, and then I went back to middle school.
The last couple of years.
Last year, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when did you get into, what's it called now? ELL, ESL?
Both. ESL is the program, and then the students are ELLs. I know that's confusing.
English as a second
language. So 16 of the 20 years I've taught ELL.
So does it confuse your students that you are a white redhead with the last name Rodriguez?
Sometimes.
How often does that happen?
I have never thought of that.
Think about that.
But that's hilarious.
Think about you're from whatever country and you see your teacher's name's Miss Rodriguez. You're like, oh.
I mean, Tyson and I kind of favor one another
Yes,
that way. But you have an Hispanic last name.
One of my he's not really my student, but he's at my school, and he asked me in one of those last few days of school. He's so cute. I forgot his exact words, but he basically asked me why my name was Rodriguez. Because he said, is your husband like Mexican? And he's a little Hispanic student. And I said, well, he's Hispanic. He's Cubano. And he goes, oh, he said, because I didn't think an American would choose Rodriguez.
Oh my God!
Oh.
Well, okay.
I'm like, well,
that is interesting. But you've been teaching in the county 20 plus years, right? Like, what changes have you seen, like, with our population? Because you went from, we live in the city of Morganton, right? So how diverse? Like, for instance, what's it called now? Mountain View or Mountain Crest? I don't know what the
they went back to their original names. So Mountain. The new school is Mountain View, and then the one that I worked at is Hillcrest.
Okay, so for our audience, Hillcrest is a small elementary school right downtown Morganton. Okay, we're talking not even, a mile and a half from us. It's surrounded by a lot of...
We could walk there if we weren't lazy.
Yeah, but we're lazy. But, it's very close. And what's the percentage of Hispanics at that school,
would
you
my
think?
gosh.
Over 80%?
I would say right around 80%. The school that I'm in, the middle school that I teach at, we are 70-something% Hispanic.
Think about that for a minute. Mm-hmm. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
So that's an insanely high number.
Well, I was actually thinking, because I've done some research lately for our church, but a census just came out and said that the number one name in America is now Rodriguez.
Woo-hoo!
Number one last name. It used to
for
be
real.
That's
with an S or a Z?
Probably a Z.
I would venture to say Z.
What?
Yeah.
That is crazy. I don't even know how I feel about that.
Well,
crazy.
It's there.
So we're talking about schools in this county that are 80+% Hispanic. We have a lot of families, and my mom and dad over the years have been very close to that community. Here we helped a lot of them. We have a huge Guatemalan community here, Costa Rican, Mexican. We have a little bit of everything. We have a Japanese-owned company here, so we have kids from Japan. And we have kids now from where? Marshallese?
The Marshall Islands.
Yes, we have Marshallese kids, families coming here. Yeah,
Marshall Islands are where?
Seriously, the first time I had a student from the Marshall Islands, I had to Google it. It's close to Hawaii.
Okay.
And they're not a U.S. territory or whatever, but there's a U.S. military presence on the islands.
And so we have, I'm not going to say the name, but we have a company here that's recruiting. They recruit across the world. So, and they came here for jobs.
Yeah.
So, but, so what are the challenges you think, babe, like as far as, because I know you've seen it change in 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
You've seen it change, and the news sometimes, as slanted as it is on both sides, doesn't realize a lot of people, for example, I've had things said to me personally, hey, I look at the ratings of this school, those numbers don't look great, because they have a grade attached, So if you're a new family and you come to Morganton, North Carolina, or you come to Burke County and you come to get a house or whatever, and you start looking at these numbers assigned to the school, the grades, quote unquote, like, that doesn't tell the whole story. So explain, like, for a school like Mountain View,
Okay, great.
Because I know a lot of those teachers, right, through you. I know a lot of our staff. I know our superintendent. I know our people in leadership. And the strongest thing we have in this county, in my opinion, elementary system, in my opinion. And that's just as a parent that has driven my kids to school. We've been plugged in at every school. Typically, I don't know how it is in the school system if you're a parent, but I do feel in elementary they want us involved. They want parents involved, and as the kids get older in middle school, they're like, Dad, no, don't we don't need you. And in high school, forget it. Don't bother. And that's sort of the way I feel. But how do you feel? Like when there's a grade to the school? Yeah, I'm good. Look, she's making crazy eyes. When there's a grade to the school, how do you explain that to somebody, right?
Okay. The reason I'm making crazy eyes is that you asked me the question 5 minutes ago, and you've been talking ever since.
Well, this is a podcast. I'm not editing that.
Okay.
It's real life.
It's real life.
This is the real thing.
Okay, so like my school, and I'll just say it, Walter Johnson Middle School, we are a fantastic school, but we are a school that has a lot of, I guess I'm going to say challenges, and I'm not saying that that might sound like a negative word, but I don't mean it that way.
Well, we're going to throw some statistics. We're going to talk about some things and explain some things.
So like, I'm the ESL teacher, so that's my bias. That's going to be my slant. I'm always going to talk about the ELL population, but we do have a high ELL population. And some of the...
And they're not all Hispanic either.
No.
You've got everything.
Now, the majority is ELL. Now, what I think sometimes the general public doesn't understand is that when I say ELL, I'm talking about some of my students literally moved to America last month. I mean, they are literally brand new, speak no English.
What education background did they have?
And listen, the ones that I receive that are from Guatemala, which is where most of mine are from, have little to no education. So this is middle school age kids. Middle school age. So they're coming into 6th, 7th, 8th grade with no literacy in their home language.
Right.
So they can't read and write their own alphabet. They can't add and subtract in their own language.
And I don't want to talk negatively of their mom and dads, right? But the value of education with mom and dad don't have an education, so they don't value.
And they don't, if your whole life is farming and there's no value in education in your community, then you're not going to have an education.
Right.
So that's where they're coming from, and they're thrown into a whole new world, and then all of a sudden, academic
matters. In the U.S., it matters big time.
So they're learning a new language, and they're having to acclimate to a new culture and acclimate to a school culture. So they're coming from a society where they ran around in a village, had agriculture, and then now it's like, okay, now you're going to sit in a desk for 6 hours a day and learn. Mm-hmm. Yikes.
And that is tough.
Crazy.
That is tough.
And then I also have students who are born in the U.S., but because they speak a different language at home, and parents have never really been able to help them with homework because they don't speak the same language, they might just be behind in reading and writing, and so they come to me for that extra support. So I have a big variety of students.
Yeah.
What isn't there a pretty crazy statistics about like mom and dad education level compared to the kid?
Yeah.
What's that?
Okay. Oh gosh, now I don't know these statistics off the top of my head, but the biggest indicator of mine, yours, anybody's, what am I trying to say? Like the biggest indicator of your success,
yes,
your academic success,
potential,
your potential, and whatever, is your parents. So if your parents graduated from high school, then the chances are you'll graduate from high school.
And it's the same thing for college. Like my dad, my mom were adamant that I get a 4-year degree.
Right.
I haven't even used my 4-year degree, but
you have one.
I have one. Right. Yeah, I have one.
Well, that explains why we constantly celebrate. I'm the first person to get to this educational level.
Exactly.
Well, Tyson was the first to get her master's, I think. Right? Were you the first in our family to get master's? I think so. Yeah.
And my mom has a college degree now, but she
went back, right?
She went back as an adult. So when I was
Which is a great story, by the way. Her mom's got a great story.
Statistically, I'm a success story.
Yeah.
When I was growing up.
Because neither one of her parents.
Neither of my parents had a college degree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she had a full ride. Tyson had a full ride to college.
Heck yeah.
She's the brains, straight up.
Mm-hmm.
Straight up. So, we've got a few minutes. Okay. I wanted to touch on a few more things. I wish we had more time, but, with every guest, you're going to be back because I think we're gonna get a lot of cool feedback.
She lives 5 feet away from
yeah,
her.
yeah, yeah.
I think we can rein her in.
But as the audience is figuring out, man,
I sometimes
really
deliver coffee to the guests. Y'all just
Cuban
don't know
coffee.
that.
That's right.
Yeah, she does.
That's right.
So, so one thing I did want to touch on, and I'll explain this story as we segue into this. Yesterday, I was taking you dinner. I stopped by Mountain Burrito. Hello. And to get some to-go dinner for Tyson. Tyson works an extra job. I call it her FU money. I can't touch that money. It's her money. She can use it forever. Yeah, it's the FU money. And
fingernails.
Yeah, well, whatever. Listen, that stuff's expensive. That stuff is not El Cheapo.
And for those of you dudes who want to be happily married,
you pay for the fingernails.
I'm being honest with you. If it makes her feel pretty, let
every
her get
gift card, like every gift most of my gift cards and things I get you are for that stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, me and Gabe stopped real fast to pick you up food. We ate dinner real fast, and we ran into a family that I've known for quite a few years. He's awesome, great family. But in talking like you do in a small town, hey, I remember them being from a particular church. And I bring up the conversation, hey, you're from such and such. And then he looks at me like really dejected, and like he's like, yeah, we left there. It got instantly awkward. And I'm like, first of all, I've had this conversation probably like 24 times. I said, dude, don't worry about it. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
He brightened up the minute I said that. He was just like, bro, we just went hiking last weekend.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. And you could see it light up, right? Yeah. And so me and Tyson have some interesting stories. Yeah. Our religious backgrounds are different, which is a whole nother conversation. She came from more of a Baptist background. I grew up in a Pentecostal background.
But not crazy Baptist.
No, she grew up what I call the liberal Baptist church, to be honest. Yeah. But, I mean, they sort of are.
And if you're listening, please forgive me that I just said crazy Baptist. Sorry.
Well, people know.
I think
knew.
This podcast is reaching human beings.
Yeah, it's okay. They know.
You know if you're a crazy Baptist.
So, but anyway, I grew up in a Pentecostal environment. Tyson grew up in a Baptist environment, and if there's been any significant change over the years, it's, I would say, majority on my side. I think I feel like I came from a very fundamental background, and I instantly was like over time, I'm like, wait a second, some of this is hot trash. What was, and what I mean by fundamental, it was like, man, I don't even want to really get into specifics, but let's just say that there have been a lot of changes over the years. A lot of it started traveling with Clayton King and a bunch of Baptists, and I was like, wait a second, these Baptists are cool dudes. I was told they were not cool dudes. Yeah.
So Ricky says that he's changed a lot over time. However, in the early days,
I was crazy.
Ricky,
long hair.
Hang on, wait a minute. He interrupts too much.
I love this.
Okay. Okay, but in the early days of our relationship, I left my church and went with you because you were performing on stage.
But at the time, the church I was at was healthy, good pastor.
Okay, it was healthy.
Pastor was good.
However, listen, I went to Big White Baptist Church.
Yeah, it was a little crazy.
And I went to a church where, one, they clapped.
Okay, I see where this is
going. They clapped.
Yeah.
And they still had the old school order.
2, Ricky was on stage. I was by myself in the pew during the clapping.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And 3, they spoke in tongues.
They did speak in tongues. They did speak in tongues.
Oh, yeah.
But, you had like an organ. You grew up with an organ and a piano and all that stuff.
Yeah. And I grew up with an organ, a piano, and a church program that told me what was going to happen.
You're going to break that. Hold on. Let me help you. Hold on.
Oh, I figured it out. I got it.
There you go.
This is a test.
I had to help her with her headphones.
I've got this headphones.
It says DJ headphones.
And this microphone in front of me. I feel like Cardi B.
Oh my God, I hate Cardi B. She knows that too. So, okay, Oh no! Don't do that! Don't do that! Don't do that! Don't do that! That is bad. That is bad.
Oh my goodness!
That is bad. So back. Okay, so we're gonna skip all the early stuff because that's sort of boring. But I think when we came back from college and we came home, right? We were looking for churches and we visited a few. We were just a young couple. Right? No kids, just trying to figure out. I remember we visited the early version of George Logan's church when they were meeting downtown, which was awesome. That was really cool. And then we ended up going back to First Assembly, I think is where we ended up going back to.
Yes.
But
which is where Ricky grew up.
Yeah, it's where we grew up, or I grew up. And then we met some lifelong friends. We met Chris and Tara, pastor. We just call him PC. You'll hear me call him PC all the time. And really, they became lifelong friends. But that started a journey that started a rough journey for us because we just threw ourselves into it, right? We volunteered and
it started. Well, there was a church split. We went with the split, and it started. I'm just going to say it started a journey of where we got hurt spiritually.
Yeah.
But we got hurt. I got hurt.
It was bad.
I got hurt bad.
Yeah, it was bad.
And then I felt like a church hopper. I did not grow up a church hopper.
Well, I
stayed at the same church.
When we left, we got shunned.
We did.
We got shunned by like some very specific people and people we thought were friends, and it was nasty. It was nasty. It was really dirty. It was a harsh thing, and we never forgot that. Like I think that situation we learned a lot.
I learned a whole lot.
Yeah, we learned a lot. We thought, and I only want to say this because I don't want to bash anything. That's not about this. In fact, if I could say anything, the pastors from all those situations, I could say I have a very good relationship with now. It's not, my wife is shaking her head, but I'm personally speaking for myself. But
Ricky does not speak for me.
but I think, we can sort of encourage these families that are going through this. And we're not saying, listen, if you're miserable, leave your place. We're not saying that. Right. Well, we may be saying that, but, the bottom line is, 10% of the volunteers do most of the work at a church. And we were always that 10% wherever we went.
Well, what I was going to say is about what we learned is, would you find yourself in a place where you are beginning to question choices being made by the church? You should feel free to ask leadership.
And you should get a clear answer.
Yeah. And get a clear answer. I don't necessarily support leaving. Like we left, but I don't think that should be your first reaction.
We had to.
We had to.
Yeah.
But what I learned through all of this, because I went through many times of, I think, depression, where I felt like I was spiritually desolate because I let other people make me feel that way.
Yeah.
Yes.
At different times. Yeah. Like, oh, I'm not good enough. I don't do, and I could give a bazillion examples, but that's not important. I let other people make me feel that way. So what I learned is I went back to just my simple faith. Jesus loves me. This I know.
And we've been more careful about, because we did that for a lot of years. We volunteered as youth leaders. I helped with the music and we volunteered for years. Yeah. And then I started traveling, playing at different churches, playing guitar, and then I get asked a lot, hey, where's your family? Well, my family lives really far away from usually the campuses I play at, right? Yeah. And Tyson will come with me when when she can, when the kids can. It's tough. It's hard. It's hard when the kids are younger. You're driving very far. It's not easy, and for the musicians that are at churches, sometimes it's usually an 8-hour day. It's a long day. It's not, we're talking like leaving here at 4:30, leaving with your family at 4:30. It's not Sunday. It's just not going to work, right. So, but, nowadays though, we have eChurch, You know, we call it E-Church, the E-Fam, but at Elevation, but we have options now. You know, it was just TV, but now it's the internet, you know, and we got podcasts. You know, that's how I listen to a lot of Pastor Stephen stuff, is through the podcast or through YouTube.
Which makes a lot of sense, because most of the time we're
crushing
on stage
it.
or getting ready to be
People
there.
think we're just chilling back, you know, in the green room. No.
Yeah.
We're, you know, it is a very busy schedule, but juggling, you know, the family and how we balance that. It's not for everybody, you know.
Right.
I have friends that their wives are on the team. They're singing. You know, my wife's not a singer. No offense, babe. I love you. But but she can't, you know, we can't be together. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Like, we can't be together.
I used to hate it when we were like at church and we were a younger couple, and people would be like, "Oh, so Ricky plays guitar. Do you sing with him?"
Oh,
she's like,
my wife's in the same boat. Now, she will dance all over the
I
worship.
offer to dance. And Ricky turns me down.
I'm like, no. Yeah. I'm like, no. But you know, going back to, you know, how we juggle things. It's, you know, I just think we have such a good relationship. We can manage that stuff, and you're with me when you can, and you do watch a lot online at home.
The dogs and I watch together.
Molly loves Pastor Stephen. It's creepy. It's crazy. She just sits there and watches him. It's nuts. That's her Jack Russell. So, but you know, but you know, eventually, God willing, we'll have a campus that's closer to us. Eventually, one day. I don't know, but for now, you know, the closest one's an hour away. Yeah. You know, but. You know, for the families that I think struggle with that stuff, I used to feel guilty about our church hopping back in the day. I mean, that was the main reason I didn't want to leave the first time. I was like, I don't want to be known as the guy that's just going to move on from church to church. Right. You know, and then I started, you know, being in ministry and being with 7 Miles. You know, we got to see a lot of really healthy churches. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is really the synergy between the leadership, the pastor, and the leadership of the church. Mm-hmm. And you've got some very healthy pockets of places doing great things. We've experienced that in town. I think we've seen some very good pastors come into town here and do some very good things. The problem is inherently being a pastor in a small town, and if you're a pastor that wants more things, and growth is one of them, you're not going to find them here. This is not the place to build a 10,000 member church. Right. It's just not going to happen. And I think the guys that come in that have such good people skills, the pastors don't make it. They can't. After 5 years, they're like, okay, we've maxed out at this number, and it's hard for them, you know, and, you know, I just know personally before we committed to Elevation, you know, I would just watch the pastor and be like, okay, would me and this guy go out and have a taco or a coffee? And if the answer was no, then I didn't think it was going to last. Yeah. And normally it did not work. Yeah. You know, and it got to, you know, I just don't hide my opinion, right? Mm-hmm. I just don't. And I've just gotten to the point that without sounding negative about it, I think that, you know, you have to decide for yourself what's right for your family. Right, Tyson? Would you say that? You know, for your kids, you know, it's important. Don't be all negative Nancy about yourself. Yeah. And doors will open. You'll find the right place that you'll feel comfortable. Your family will feel comfortable. It may take a while. You know, it may take a while. Yeah. But don't. I don't know. I remember that I felt guilt. I remember that guilt. I got over it really quick when I realized I
got over it pretty quickly.
I did. I sure did, because I got to hear some really cool pastors. Yeah. And I got to know some really good dudes. And again, I think some of it was just a maturity thing. You know, Jimmy, we have a few minutes. You have any questions for Tyson?
You mean bombs away?
Bombs away. Let's go. We got to do this pretty quick. She's got to leave in like 10 minutes.
Here you go.
Or 5 minutes.
I'm going to make the first two kind of mirrors of each other, okay? Okay. So, number one, what is one thing that you've found out about yourself that you like better about yourself because you went through the journey with cancer that you did?
Man, that's good.
Because it's easy to look at like, oh, this informed a lot about who we are and all this kind of stuff, but what's something you like more about you?
Oh, God. I feel like...
I have an answer for her.
He always talks over me. I just
Tyson.
I feel stronger. Like I feel empowered. Like I can do this. And while I was going through it, I didn't know the outcome. Mm-hmm. And so I learned to just kind of trust that things were going to work out. Not necessarily work out the way I wanted them to work out, but that ultimately God would work things out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he did. He was faithful. God's been very faithful to us.
Absolutely. Great. Okay, so stronger. That's awesome.
Yeah. Identity. I was going to say identity.
Yeah. You find
absolutely
that elusive who am I?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, second question then. With the whole just the watershed thing with the church. What's something that you found out about yourself? Because I have things about me that have happened in my past with churches that now I'm like, oh man, I love that about me. So maybe something that you know about yourself now that you've gone through the church stuff.
Okay. Well, the first thing I thought was kind of negative. Like, I learned in a negative way that I can be kind of a follower if I don't watch it.
Right.
So, and it's good to realize things about yourself. But I think the good thing I learned about me or about my faith or whatever is that I had my faith right the first time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I feel like I kind of went back to what I believed growing up.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, man, absolutely.
Because I got really complicated there for a while. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, it should be more simple.
Yeah.
Like, I got saved, I got baptized on just simple faith, and it really is simple.
Man.
Don't make it complicated.
Yeah. And what's funny is that simplicity will blow your mind.
Exactly.
When you revisit it.
That's a good answer, babe. I'm proud of you.
So,
why, thank you.
You read the cue card exactly.
Exactly.
And the third one, everybody gets asked this.
I got it.
What's your favorite taco? Where's it from?
Prepared.
Okay, I've got two.
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
one. I don't even know this, by the way.
Okay.
One of them has to be.
Well, yes, but it's a very specific mountain burrito. It is their Tuesday fish taco.
Oh yeah,
burrito / taco.
Oh
yeah, the fish taco Tuesday.
The fish taco Tuesday is my favorite at Mountain Burrito. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Today. And I like it. I could have gotten it today.
Today's Tuesday.
And I like it with the pineapple salsa. So yummy. And the second one...
We'll be going there in about 10 minutes.
Fish taco. The second one is, I can't think of the name of it. It's that place we ate out at in Asheville or Charlotte. It's the place where I got the fried...
Oh, in Charlotte.
The fried tofu tacos.
I can't remember.
Oh, my gosh.
It was with our... Yeah, I remember that.
What part of town you in?
That the hipster area.
Near the neighborhood theater.
Oh, Cabo?
Yep. Cabo
Tacos.
Yes, Cabo tacos.
They
fried
tofu
taco.
The tofu taco.
And Ricky laughed at me. He was like,
tofu.
Why do you vegetarian? And I'm not a vegetarian. I just like tofu. Why do vegetarians want fried tofu? I'm like, that's how you get fat vegetarians.
There you go.
It's true. It's true.
Well, we're running out of time. I love you.
Love you too.
Thank you for doing this.
Tyson, you rule. You
did great. The world's going to figure out how much cooler you are than me. So now it's over. It's over. Get ready. But
start your own podcast.
So if well, she is doing the essential oils. So let's do that plug, right? So follow her on Facebook. She is doing essential oils.
Follow me for Facebook for all your oily needs.
Yes, but to wrap things up, please check our Facebook page. We're up. We hit 1,000 likes.
We did.
Man, we're just crushing, and we're doing great on our metrics on the listens too.
Yeah,
and the videos, are doing good. We really appreciate that. We're gonna do some more things. I've got a band booked that's gonna be coming in to do another set soon from South Carolina, Foxwood.
Right on.
And we've got one of my favorite guitar players is gonna be being soon. Price Stevens, who, man, I can't wait for y'all to meet. He's a gem, and obviously one of my favorite guitar players of all time. Jimmy, where can we find you?
You can find me at JimmyAtkinsMusic.com. And you can also find me at RuddyManBeard.com if you're looking for some way to make your beard look and feel and smell amazing.
And your dogs.
Yeah, you got the new stuff.
I got a new branch called Ruddy Man's Best Friend.
Yes. So find us on bombhousepodcast.com or Welcome to the Bombhouse Podcast on Facebook. We do love y'all. Peace out.
Yeah, thanks.